Mighty Ape is Australia's entertainment and pop culture superstore with everything from movies, music, games, toys, books, hobbies and more. Mighty Ape is your one-stop shop for the things that matter most. They constantly have hot deals and exclusive promos. And if you visit their website on the click-through banner on fakechef.net's homepage, then your purchase will help support Good Movie Monday. Mighty Ape, Australia's entertainment and pop culture superstore.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning!
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
You mean to wish me a good morning, or do you mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not?
Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God. What?
Trick or treat.
Yeah, I forgot. Hold on. Yeah. Here's one for you. One for you. Plenty to go around.
Cigarettes.
Okay, forget it.
Hell yeah. Smoke 'em if you got 'em, that's what I say. It is Halloween. It's that spooky time of year where kids all over Europe and North America dress up and they forage for treats, while poor Aussie kids might be lucky enough to score one festive house out of 30. That is if they're not berated by adults who aren't having a bar of that Yankee bullshit. This is Good Movie Monday. My name is Glenn Cochran. Thanks for dropping by. We are the podcast presented by fakeshemp.net, home of the nerdy cinematic ramblings. Find us on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. The good news is that you've all knocked on the right door today. What better way to celebrate the occasion than with two strapping lads from Australia's premium horror company, Monster Pictures, both of whom are actually already part of the show. I'm talking about my co-pilot, Ben Halwig. Hey, what's up, mate?
Oh, man, I'm just enjoying the freedom that we here in Melbourne have been recently given. Not much freedom, but just enough to get out and try taste some junk food that was not allowed me because it was outside that 5-kilometer radius of my house. And now I think I've had two kebabs and a HSP in the last couple of days, and it's become a problem.
And of course, there's also our resident PE teacher, Jarret Gahan, who joins us again. Hey, man, it's great to have you back.
Hey man, it's great to be back. I've been listening to you guys since our last episode and wishing I could just be there to jump in on the conversation at points in time. And it's quite funny actually, because when I am listening to you guys and I have an opinion, I'm often, it's 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm walking the streets of like Altona North and probably partially wearing the mask. No one else is around at the time, so I lower it a little. And I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. So I like to think that the passing cars see me and go, look at that crazy guy. He's out there at 5 a.m. talking to himself. Crazy bastard. But yeah, I like to weigh in,
Well, this is your opportunity.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing it. Don't worry. I should put the mask on just for effect.
And for any of our listeners who are not aware, both of you are from Monster Pictures, and your annual Monster Fest Film Festival is kicking off later this week. It's always a celebrated occasion, and we will be talking about this year's event in a few moments' time. But first, here's a cheeky piece of audio for all of you to think about before the end of the show.
Something moved in next door that isn't human.
They did kill a girl over there.
It's horrifying. It's unspeakably evil. And now it knows that you know. If you love being scared, it'll be the night of your life. Rated R. Sneak preview Friday night. Check newspapers for theaters.
Well, get your thinking caps on because we will be asking you to identify that one at the end of the show. But now let's get straight into it. Let's talk about Monster Fest. And Jarret, I'm going to throw one at you first. Obviously, Melbourne is in lockdown. The festival has a slightly different shape this year. How is the festival running this year?
Well, look, we've got people on the ground in some of the states. So in Sydney, we've got our festival director, Simon Foster, who's looking after things there. So we're sort of relaying stuff with him. Obviously, we've worked with him on programming. There's a couple things that he's programmed that are outside of the programming for the other states, and he's handling all the Q&A and MC duties there. We're a little less, I think, in the other states. I think Vanessa and Duncan might be lending us a hand in Perth. And then obviously here in Melbourne every year. In Brisbane, we've got our business partners there, and they're going to handle like if we have a merch table and that set up as well. But this year we're actually doing the T-shirts online because COVID slowed everything down. We can't guarantee the T-shirts will get to the cinemas in time. And just the whole cash handling aspect of merch, you know what I mean? It's a traditional way we've sort of done things, so we're trying to keep things as clean and I guess keep it as fast track as possible. So if that means doing it all out of Melbourne and sending the T-shirts out, it makes it a bit easier. But yeah, we're sort of managing things remotely. We've obviously spent months planning for these festivals. So all the hard work's sort of done to an extent. I mean, Ben really is the guy who is working behind the scenes right up until the festival, because we've got films still coming in from all over the world that, maybe we haven't received the physical DCP of, and Ben's chasing those things 24/7. Like, if you jump on your email, he's sending emails out at like 4 a.m. in the morning, 11 p.m. at night, trying to get these films to the cinemas in time. But, so yeah, it's all being handled remotely. I mean, it's going to be interesting because typically the weekend itself is a pretty stressful weekend. It's a good weekend. It's fun to catch up with everybody. If you're lucky, you get to catch a couple movies, but more often than not, obviously, we've seen most of the programming. And, you might be doing Q&As and things, so you sort of run off your feet. But you can always, at the end of the day, have a beer, with some of the Monster Fest crew, like your Mondo and people like that, and just sort of chill and have a bit of fun. But this year we're all going to be like at home while it's all happening interstate, and it's going to be odd. It's going to be the first Halloween I think I've spent at home in years, so that's kind of strange. But yeah, so I think at the moment my work's pretty much done for the most part, like all the social media stuff and that. But yeah.
Cool. Well, Ben, I know that you've been, like Jarret said, you've been busy bringing Monster Fest together behind the scenes. And for curious minds listening who might not think of how a festival is put together, how does an average day leading up to the event look for you?
Well, look, it's all like, especially as we get closer to the actual event, it's just a series of harried emails. That's all day, every day. Like we play this year. I think we've got. For the interstate festivals, and Melbourne is traditionally a larger festival. But this year we've got 14 features and I think there's 22 shorts. Usually there's anywhere from 60 to 100 shorts, and each short film requires as much. How can I say it without saying it? Hassle requires as much work to get onto the screen as the feature does. So it's pretty full on when you're constantly emailing people, and everyone thinks that they're the only ones who are going to give you their film the day before the screening, and no one really understands that you can't play a H.264 MP4 that you've got on your mobile phone on a cinema screen. Like, it just doesn't. That's not how it works. So you get this like, oh, here's a Vimeo link. Can you get it from that? You're like, well, I can. It's not going to look great, and it's got your name on it. So maybe rethink that a bit. And it's amazing how many people do not read the submission guidelines on Film Freeway when submitting, and to what you're actually going to need to show your film on the big screen. But I mean, look, that's in the lead up. That's in the last. Like usually I try and get all of the films a month before the festival, so then we can send compiled drives out to all the locations without too much hassle. It never works out that way. Sometimes, a couple of years ago, I think we had 3 drives per location going out, and because we just didn't get films, and like where the festival starts at the end of this week, I think I'm still missing 2 features. Don't have them. They're not in the country. So sometimes it goes right down to the wire.
Well, that just keeps you on your toes, mate.
Certainly does. My tippy toes.
So what are some of the highlights for the festival this year in both of your minds?
Well, I guess first it is important to say there are 5-6 of us on the programming team at Monster Fest, and not all of us have seen everything. There are some films like Dark and the Wicked, which is our closing night film, which Grant got to see at Virtual Cannes this year, but we have not been able to see. Jarret and I haven't seen it. Jarret went to Sundance this year, and he saw our opening night film Possessor, we have not had a chance to see Possessor yet.
You got a
So
link now, though.
I
mate.
do
You've
have
got a
I
link.
do have a link, and that is my plan. Once this show ends, once we finish recording, is to sit down and watch
Gonna put that on.
Possessor.
Yeah.
So there's so even though Jarret and I have seen a lot of what's playing, we haven't seen everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Well, I think I probably speak for a lot of people when I say I'm anticipating Shakespeare shitstorm for sure.
Yeah.
Now that I have
And
seen,
I'm looking.
that's great.
I'm looking forward to the opportunity to speak with Lloyd Kaufman because I would like to know what he thinks, where Troma stands in today's world.
I think Troma stands where it's always stood. Like like Shakespeare's Shitstorm is a throwback to a classic Troma film. Like it is a Lloyd Kaufman, Michael Herz production, and it has everything that you kind of that entails. So it's
and that is exactly what we want. And but like I said, it's a precarious time to be Troma.
Yeah, and the whole the film is
absolutely
is essentially about kind of cancel culture. That's what
Excellent.
Shakespeare's Shitstorm is about. So very
and Psycho Gorman's another one, and Synchronic. Is that how you pronounce it? They're both ones I'm anticipating.
Yeah, like Psycho Gorman is great. Psycho Gorman is. I'm not sure how the Astron 6 thing works because it's like six guys in Canada, and sometimes they work together and sometimes they don't. But even when they don't, they're still all in each other's films. And this one is Steve Kostansky, who traditionally in the Astron 6 kind of group was their special effects guy. But he's since branched out, and I believe Manborg was his baby, and The Void was his, and now Psycho Gorman, which is like a kinder horror, I guess you would.
Yeah.
I guess you would say.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Like the trailer is magnificent. If you haven't seen the trailer, check that out. It achieves its goal of making you really want to watch the film. And everything that's in the trailer, the trailer doesn't give away everything. There's still plenty of kind of extra surprises and stuff, but it's really good. It's a really good film.
And there's also like some really phenomenal repertoire programming this year. Like you've got Event Horizon and Total Recall, not to mention Ben would probably slap me if I didn't say Action USA.
The most actioniest 80s action movie ever made.
Last week on the show you mentioned Action USA when we were talking about Stunt Rock.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know why, but in my mind when you said it, playing at Monster Fest, I thought, it must be a new film. Then I went and looked it up, and I'm like, no, what the hell am I talking about? It's like an old movie from the 80s.
Yeah, it's from 1989, directed by a stuntman who basically destroyed the town of Waco, Texas, making this film. And like, it's one of those kind of great films where every stunt, like especially the big stunts, that's all this guy really cares about. So each stunt is shot from like 15 different angles, and he cuts all 15 angles into each effect. And it's like cars going through houses, people catching fire and getting thrown off bridges, motorcycles going off bridges, cars going through school buses going through helicopters. Like it's absolutely insane.
And you could almost set your watch to the stunts. There's something happening pretty much every 3 to 4 minutes. And when there's not something happening action-wise, there's somewhat bizarre, witty dialogue about it. There's just a lot of WTF moments in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, you think that a character is going to be a central character through the film in a similar manner to, like, To Live and Die in LA. Then they're shot in front of you and in slow motion from multiple angles with loads of squibs. And it's just, you're like, what the fuck? It is jaw-droppingly awesome, and it's that kind of movie that you'd never heard of. That is this great, secret movie. Like I'd not heard of it prior to it playing at Fantastic Fest, and us sort of seeking it out and then seeing it, and it was just I couldn't look away. It was just fantastic. It's a treasure.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it didn't get a VHS release or anything in Australia. Like it's never been seen.
Yeah.
In this country, and it does have like on my checklist of things that make an excellent film, and it must have all of these elements. One of them is random characters from the film bursting into song for random, unexplained reasons, and that happens in this film in a country and western bar, and it is an amazing scene. It's Miami Connection. I mean, the song's not as catchy as the Miami Connection song, but it is as good as the Miami Connection.
Well, it does sound fantastic. But I'll tell you what, like Waco, Texas can't catch a break.
No.
God, no.
But before we move along, two more things. Firstly, is there anything in store for the legions of Melbourne fans who do miss out this year?
Well, at this point in time, we're just waiting on what sort of restrictions are going to be eased, and once we know that, we're going to be able to sort of firm up a date. But behind the scenes, we've been working on programming for the festival, so it will feature probably the bulk of what plays in the national program, but there will be some exceptions due to, release dates. I think Total Recall is going to be on home entertainment in December, coming out in 4K Ultra HD, and then there's a few others that may be closer to sort of digital release. So we've actually got another few films that we couldn't quite get in time for the national program we're hoping to lock for Melbourne. One in particular that I'm really excited about. So there will be some different content for Melbourne. And yeah, we're really hoping that we're going to be able to do the in-cinema experience. I mean, it's never been a question to us whether we would do the thing online in a digital way or stick with the physical format. For us, it was, we want to stick to the cinema. We don't want to do anything online, It's about the experience. Monster Fest is more than just the movies. It's the people that come to see the movies, It is its own experience, and we really want to get that happening again in Melbourne. So we do have a few different things, and hopefully we may even be able to put on some panels and that, because we've been discussing all of that stuff. But yeah, we're sort of at the mercy of Dan Andrews and the government at this point in time, and the health and well-being of all Melbourneites. So, and
as Donald Trump calls it, the Chinese plague. Watching the debates over the weekend.
God,
so
good.
What an amazing coin of phrase, turn of phrase that man is able to deliver.
Yes. Well, he knows how to turn on a certain crowd in a certain place. Like, I'm an unabashed fan of reality TV. I watch some shit reality TV. I tell you that much. I'm currently watching the new season of The Bachelorette, which is awful, but I'm still watching it. Mind you, I am loving the election coverage in the United States at the moment. That is far more entertaining. I'm watching everything I can. I've got my YouTube open daily, where it's got a feed of different appearances that are popping up, and then I'll have it playing in the background, so I'm just listening to Trump or Biden talk about something. It's amazing. Like, you can't write that into a film. Like, this is bigger and better than Wag the Dog. But yeah, so I'm digging that at the moment. We don't have many movies coming out, but the US presidential election campaigning is phenomenal.
They said there was no substitute for Monster Fest.
No, they should.
Yeah, exactly.
We could just put that on the cinema screen, just put the best of.
You could do it.
Well, before we go to Guillermo to run through this week's movie news, is there anything you both want to add about Monster Fest?
Look, I want to say, I know that not everyone's going to be able to get to all 14 films, so I'm just going to throw out my definite you have to see, and you have to see in a cinema on the big screen, Possessor opening night at Monster Fest on Thursday, October 29. It is such an experience. Like, the film is brilliant. It's probably my favourite film of the year. And the idea of getting to see it in the cinema with people, like I did in Sundance, where there's going to be audible gasps throughout the auditorium as the movie plays at certain points. You've got to... It's such a weird shared experience to know that you find something shocking, but then pretty much everyone else does too. So it kind of reinforces that thing of like, oh wow, cool, movies are this shared experience. And it's a magnificent looking film. So if you are looking to, lock one particular film, in my mind, it's Possessor. I mean, we've got a program of great stuff, and it's very diverse this year, but Possessor is my number one film for the festival.
Excellent. It's weird because you two are just, permanent features on this show, but I really felt like I interviewed you then, and that's just weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I assumed the position.
Well,
What's happening, everybody? It's Guillermo here again from ScreenRealm.com. Happy to be back on Good Movie Monday. Let's quickly take a look at some of the news stories we've covered in the past week, kicking off with the end of the Fast and Furious films. That's right, more than 20 years from when the wheels first started spinning, the Fast and Furious saga will be hitting the finish line. Universal Pictures is ordering 2 more films in the core Fast and Furious franchise before that line of films wraps up. The potentially growing Hobbs and Shaw series and other possible offshoots are still free to move ahead if the studio wants. I mean, come on, you didn't think Universal would really put this cash cow to sleep completely, did you? Set to direct the last 2 chapters is Justin Lin, who has directed 4 Fast and Furious films so far and has directed the upcoming 9th film, which had been scheduled for release early this year until the pandemic pushed it back to 2021. Next up, Jared Leto will be back as the Clown Prince of Crime. After playing beloved DC villain the Joker in the David Ayer directed Suicide Squad back in 2016 and being left quite disappointed with what resulted in just around 7 minutes of screen time, Leto will be playing the character once again in the highly anticipated Snyder Cut of Justice League. Leto has been brought back for additional scenes being filmed by Snyder. Among the cast that have returned to film the new footage, Ben Affleck, Ray Fisher and Amber Heard as Batman, Cyborg and Miro respectively. There aren't any details to go on as to what Leto's Joker will have to do in the new cut. It's certainly an interesting move, considering the Joker wasn't in the Joss Whedon completed Justice League that hit cinemas. Zack Snyder's Justice League, as it's been officially titled now, will be around 4 hours in length and will be released as a 4-episode event series on US streaming service HBO Max in 2021. Jamie Foxx has signed up to star in a vampire comedy titled Day Shift. Set to be released by Netflix, Day Shift will have Foxx playing a hard-working blue-collar dad who just wants to provide a good life for his quick-witted 8-year-old daughter. But his mundane San Fernando Valley pool cleaning job is a front for his real source of income: hunting and killing vampires. There's a good amount of John Wick blood in this creative force. Day Shift will be marking the directorial debut for J.J. Perry, a second-unit director and stunt coordinator whose credits include Fast and Furious 9, The Fate and the Furious, Bloodshot, and the John Wick franchise. The screenplay, originally from Tyler Tice, is currently undergoing revisions by Shay Hatton, who co-wrote John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum and Zack Snyder's upcoming Netflix zombie film Army of the Dead. Fox will also be executive producing the film, with John Wick franchise director Chad Stahelski in the producing team. Said fellow producer Sean Reddick, Day Shift is a pulse-pounding thrill ride with action, danger, and grounded comedy mixed with the deep mythology, the key ingredients for the absolute best time you can have watching a movie. And lastly, Scarlett Johansson has signed up to star in and produce Bride, a genre-bending film from Chilean director Sebastián Lelio, who was behind Oscar-winning foreign film A Fantastic Woman, Disobedience, and Gloria. It's an interesting sounding synopsis. Johansson will be playing a woman who is created to be the ideal wife, the singular obsession of a brilliant entrepreneur. When she rejects her creator, she's forced to flee her confined existence, confronting a world that sees her as a monster. It is on the run that she finds her true identity, her surprising power, and the strength to remake herself as her own creation. The film, which will be a feature partnership for Apple and A24, is said to be a riff on the classic character, the Bride of Frankenstein. That about does it for me, guys. Thanks so much for having me once again. Be sure to jump on ScreenRealm.com for the latest movie news, trailers, reviews, all that jazz. I'm out of here.
Cheers to Guillermo for that. If you're not on board with Screen Realm yet, then show them some love. ScreenRealm.com is a great go-to source of movie stuff and TV stuff. They do giveaways, they feature all kinds of interviews, reviews, and more. They're on Facebook and all of the other socials, so definitely throw them a like. And actually, their latest episode of the Loud Observers podcast/vodcast is now online. I recommend you go and watch the YouTube version. Guillermo and his wife, Cassandra, talk about all kinds of nonsense and non-nonsense, and it's heaps of fun. And now, though, it is Jarret, it's your time to take over, mate. There's some juicy stuff coming out this week. What do you got for us?
Oh my god, this week is ridiculous on home entertainment front. But before I get to the good stuff, let me cover some of the crap. We've got Disney, and Disney now have Frankenstein, their catalogue titles, with that of the Fox library, and they're releasing probably somewhere within the vicinity of maybe 20 movie multi-packs. And they range from like dog movies, so they've got like Turner and Hooch at 8 Below from the Disney catalogue, and they tossed it in with Marley and Me. You got actor-centric packs with like Denzel Washington's Crimson Tide and Deja Vu, with Man on Fire, the Tony Scott film. There's sport packs, horror movie packs, horse movie packs, disaster movie packs. If there's a pack to be had, Disney have got it, and they're all under $15. And, you know, I'm not a massive fan of packs because, you know, what do you file that movie under? Do you file it under the first film featured on there, the only one of the 3 you like, the one you like the most? In any case, I guess it's a gift-giving thing, and look, it's keeping physical media in people's hands. But that's what's coming out from Disney. Roadshow, though. Roadshow's got some cool stuff happening. They've got Full Metal Jacket coming out on 4K Ultra HD, the Stanley Kubrick classic. So that's an all-new 4K restoration. It's got all the archival special features there on the Blu-ray. They've also got the Oz Perkins film, Gretel and Hansel, that's coming out on DVD. Now, Oz Perkins did that movie, The Black Coat's Daughter. What was that other one? The Quiet Thing That Lives in the House or something, one of the Netflix movies. He's an interesting filmmaker, Anthony Perkins' son, and he was like an actor previous. He was in the Legally Blonde movie. So Gretel and Hansel, that's hitting DVD, and that's a bit of no fanfare for that either. Got a US theatrical, straight to DVD here. Universal Sony Pictures Home Entertainment, though, wins the week for home entertainment releases because they've got 3 4K titles coming out. They got District 9, they got Spartacus, and they got Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which all sound awesome and are terrific. But the big one is the Back to the Future Ultimate Trilogy Collection coming out on 4K Ultra HD. And now they've gone back and they've done 4K scans and restorations of all the films. They've all got Dolby Atmos tracks, but they've also got new special feature content that includes audition tapes for some of the not then celebrities that are now like huge celebrities that audition for parts in the film, including Ben Stiller, John Cryer, and Kira Sedgwick.
Cool.
So I'm really excited about picking that one up. That's my number one on my shopping list for next week. But there's other stuff coming out from Universal Sony this week, and it's great because it's coming out on DVD and Blu-ray. They've got the new horror film Follow Me that came out through Studio Canal in cinemas earlier, I think a couple months ago. They've got the El Camino movie, that Breaking Bad movie that went to Netflix. That's coming out on Blu-ray and DVD. They've even got The King of Staten Island, that Judd Apatow film that came out a couple months ago. That's coming out on Blu-ray and DVD as well. Then there's Viavision. And Viavision have a ton of their imprint label titles coming out. I'm not going to go through them all. I'm just going to mention that P.T. Anderson's Hard 8, aka Sydney, is going to make its Blu-ray debut, which I'm very excited about to fit in with my P.T. Anderson collection. And I think it's pretty much I think it's his most underrated film. I mean, I still feel like not a lot of people really know about Hard 8, so hopefully this Blu-ray release will kind of put it, in the forefront of people's minds and they'll check it out. They've also got an essential film noir collection coming out that's got 4 features in it. I'm quite keen on that one as well. The price is a little expensive, but maybe there'll be a sale, at Amazon or JB or somewhere, and I can sort of look at adding that to the collection. And then there's probably another 4 or 5 titles they're releasing at the moment. They've really exploded. And now, normally I don't cover TV shows, but I do want to mention, because that's a little bit of an exception, the Hammer House of Horror. They're releasing a Blu-ray collection of that, a 3-disc set that's got all the episodes of that, and they're like, anthology horror, so it's like mini movies, really, and top talent too, because you've got episodes with like Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. I'm really excited about that local release, and they've gone all out, and they've got commentaries from people that directed episodes through to film historians on that. There's a ton of extra feature content that's not present on the British release of it that Network put out maybe a year or 2 ago. So I'm really excited about that. But that's pretty much it. I mean, there is a lot of stuff coming out next week, but I wanted to keep it tight. So yeah, it's an exciting week. It's going to be an expensive week, and it's probably why there's no 20% off sale this week.
I distinctly remember the sound of tumbleweeds through your segment for the last few weeks, and
I know.
Suddenly,
I know. It's
suddenly the
amazing.
posse's rolled into town, man.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I think now all the distributors are getting in this bit before Christmas so people can start looking at what they're going to be buying as gifts. And man, I just want a gift card from my family. Just get me gift cards. Get me gift cards for retailers and I'm happy.
There's a big Blumhouse collection coming out too, I think.
It is. I think it's like 10 features in there. I think I own the bulk of them, even the shitty ones like Unfriended and whatnot. But yeah, it's like a big box set of Blumhouse movies coming out. Everything from Get Out to probably Fantasy Island and that sort of fare.
Yeah.
All housed in the one collection. And, I'd say who wants to own like, a collection that's got those films at one end of the spectrum to one another? Well, this guy, I've bought them all already anyway, so they're in my collection over there. Even the Fantasy Island film, I finally bought that, but, I enjoyed it, so... But yeah, big week.
Well, I mentioned that box set, and because movies like that, as well as Follow Me, there's no better way to segue into Halloween, because this week is Halloween week. Were you guys trick-or-treaters as kids?
No.
I grew up in Queensland. I think we might have got arrested if we did that because Sir Joe Bjelke-Peterson was in power when I was a kid, and you couldn't literally one of the laws in Queensland during the 80s was if you had 3 or more people on a sidewalk, it was considered a mob, and you could all be arrested on sight.
Yeah, but hang on, Jarret.
Yeah,
that was just for considering it was Sir Joe. That was just for Aboriginals, though, right? Those laws.
Oh yeah, well, exactly. Yeah,
That,
he was a redneck racist and a very church-driven man that didn't believe in a lot of things other than God and his abuse of power and corruption. He was very big on corruption, loved taking bribes. He's no longer with us, so we can totally speak ill of him. So political. I'm sorry.
This show's never been more political. Thank you, Jarret.
Sorry about that. But no, I wanted to, but my parents were very, very sort of like, nah, look, no one does that here. And I'm like, but there's got to be someone that starts it, sort of thing. But they wouldn't allow it to happen, so...
I feel like I must have been one of those lucky kids. I lived in like a closed neighborhood, like it was a street where all the families looked out for each other's kids, and even if they didn't have kids, they'd still let you in to have lunch. And so when Halloween came around, I think they all made this secret agreement that they're all going to be ready for it. We were oblivious. I mean, the next street over may have been completely the opposite, but we had this little community where every kid dressed up and got heaps of stuff.
Jeez, no. I just used to watch Garfield's Halloween special, and that was my version of trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
Garfield did it for me.
I think when I was about 15 maybe, or 14, there was like a dance at one of the sister schools of the school I went to, and they had like a Halloween dance, and I was so excited because everyone dressed up, and and it was a dance, but you got an opportunity to get dressed up and that was the most exciting thing that ever happened in Queensland around Halloween when I was growing up, and it was amazing. But the funny thing is, typically you go to dances to try and meet girls and maybe get a dance, a kiss, and phone number or something. But it doesn't really work your best when you're completely, covered in some sort of makeup. I went as a zombie in that, like a Dawn of the Dead style zombie. There's a photo of me from it. And yeah, there's no real way to pick up when you're looking like that. But yeah, I was less interested in picking up. I was more into like, I'm a zombie. But yeah, anyway, most exciting thing happened in Queensland in the 90s.
Being that it is Halloween week, there's no better excuse to talk about scary movies, so let's do that. All right, let's do 2 rounds of recommendations this week. How about we recommend one classic movie each right now, and then at the end of the show we do a newer one.
Sounds great.
Ben, would you like to go first?
Okay, I don't mind going first. I've already talked about Blood Rage on this show, but this week I'm going to talk about another Vinegar Syndrome blood-related release. This is 1983's Blood Beat, which did actually get a VHS home release here in Australia. This is a fantastic, what they call a regional horror film in the US, and it takes place in like rural Wisconsin, in this kind of like barren, kind of looks like something out of Sleepy Hollow, like this area. It's really kind of atmospheric. And it's basically about this family who kind of get together for the holiday season. I can't remember if it's Thanksgiving or what the thing is, but it's snowy outside and everything. And the son comes home with his college girlfriend, and he wants to introduce him to the family. And the mum is this weird. The mum is kind of weird and spooky, and it's hard to tell if it's bad acting or it's intentional. But she's this weird. She's a kind of new age hippie kind of painter chick, but she paints her visions. She gets visions, and so she commits them to painting. When she meets the girlfriend, instantly she doesn't really like. She doesn't like the girl, or there's something between them that's weird. But then, as the film goes on, basically what happens is this girl is possessed by the spirit of a samurai. Of all things. And what happens is when she sleeps, she has wet dreams, And while she's having these wet dreams and like literally humping her mattress throughout the night, this spirit of a samurai is slaughtering the neighbors with a samurai sword. It is one of the most bizarre but awesome films that I've ever seen. It is.
And why is it called Blood Beat? Is it B-double-E-T because they live in the country?
No, it's B-E-A-T because it's like a heartbeat. Because all through, while she's having these dreams, the soundscape that's kind of interposed over these killings and her writhings is this kind of boom, 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 kind of beat noise.
Yeah.
I think that's why the guy who directed it is this guy. His name's Fabrice Ange Zephiratos. And he wrote it as well. I don't know if he ever did anything else other than this film. And it's a weird, offbeat kind of mess of a movie that is thoroughly entertaining once you get past how weird it is.
You always bring something interesting that I've never seen.
Ben had mentioned this film to me before, and I bought it, and I put it on, and I watched it for about 25 minutes or so. But because I put it on late at night, because I thought this is the perfect late night type of movie, and, my wits weren't about me. So after 25 minutes, I'm kind of like, I'm enjoying it, but I don't know what the fuck is going on. And I said to Ben on Monday when I saw him, I said, dude, I put that movie on, and not that it's bad, but I got 25 minutes into it, and I couldn't work out what was going on. I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I lost my concentration, whether I should have been, really giving it my devout attention. He's like, oh, no, it's just like that. It'll sort of...
It gets there.
It gets there. And I'm like, I've been meaning to go back. I've been meaning, because I was like, I don't know
I don't even know if in the first 25 minutes, I don't think the first kill even happens in the first 25 minutes.
No, at that point,
I think it's,
it was just an introduction of a lot of people to like a sort of old kind of cabin house sort of thing. They just kept coming, and I'm like, who are these people? There's so many people. What are they here for? What connection do they have with them? Is this the same house? I was like, probably asking way too many questions.
Consider this a recommendation. Our listeners can watch it and judge for themselves and let us know what the fuck is going on with that one.
I gotta watch it.
But Jarret, what about you? What Halloween treat are you recommending?
Oh well, look, I'm going right back to 1981, and I'm digging into a British horror film called The Monster Club. Now, it's in the vein of like the Hammer, Amicus, and Tales from the Crypt British anthology horrors. You know, and they typically happen from the mid-60s and mid-70s. So this one in 81's a little after that.
I almost chose this one.
Oh, really? It is an absolute banger for me. It's up there with like, what is it? Night Train to Terror? Is that what it's called? Night Train to Terror, the one that Vincent put out, which has got an anthology horror set on the train, and the story's being told. But this one consists of 3 tales. And the wraparound story is just amazing. The wraparound story has Vincent Price as an old vampire that bumps into John Carradine in an alley and sort of plays like he's injured, then sucks the blood from John Carradine, but then learns John Carradine is actually his favourite horror author. So he finally feels guilty about it, and he lures him into an underground club that is the Monster Club, and it's where all the monsters hang out. And in sort of, an apologetic fashion, he decides to share some stories to, really tell him monster stories. These are how monsters really live and what happens. So he shares stories, the 3 stories, and amidst that and this fantastic wraparound, there is terrific new wave band numbers performed live in the club, and they're all kind of ghoulish, sort of Halloween-y sort of style treat songs in the vein of like Monster Mash and that, but new wave. It is terrific, and in addition to like John Carradine and Peter Cushing, you've got Vincent Price, not Peter Cushing. You've got Donald Pleasance in there as well, and the stories range from like light-hearted. They're all pretty much tongue-in-cheek. There's probably only one that's got more of a serious sort of tone to it, but it is just incredible fun, and none of the stories overstay their welcome. They're the perfect length, and the wraparound's terrific. The music's terrific. Like, if you're not singing along with those songs when they hit the chorus, I don't know what kind of person you are, but you're certainly not a person I want to know. It's terrific. And unfortunately, I don't know, you might know, Glenn, I don't know if it's available for streaming anywhere, but you can pick up the Blu-ray really cheap. The
reason I chose, I was almost going to choose it, but the reason I chose not to is because I didn't have time to really refresh myself with it before we recorded, but also I couldn't find it. I didn't. I didn't have time to buy it, and it might be on a
Yeah.
streaming platform, but not one that I know of.
Yeah, I haven't stumbled on it because I love British anthology horrors, like from like the ones I mentioned, the Amicus horror stuff. You know, the Uncanny, Tales from the Crypt. There's Asylum. So many great ones. And this just sort of sticks out for me because it's just so much fun. Like
Well,
it is.
it's really a Halloween treat. Like it has that
absolutely.
playful Halloween kind of kookiness to it.
And that's the thing too. It's reasonably family friendly. I mean, there's nothing terribly gory. I don't think there's any profanity in it. I don't think there's any nudity in it. So it's a safe watch with the family. But that said, regardless of not having all those crucial elements that make some horror films.
I was gonna say you kind of. You're like,
I know,
you're unselling it for a bit there.
I know. I was looking at Ben's face and I was like, oh, maybe I've gone too far.
You shouldn't have told me that. I was all set to go out and to buy that Blu-ray, but if there's no gore and no nudity in it, I don't know what it is I'm watching.
I'll maybe hold out for your birthday, and what I'll do is I'll get a copy for you, and I'll draw a little dick, and I'll put it inside the case, so at least you get to see something. But yeah, the Blu-ray's super cheap. You can get the Blu-ray for like less than $15 on Amazon AU and Zavvi from the UK, and yeah, it's definitely worth it. I love.
Look, I don't know what it is about like maybe it's my penchant for kids films, but when most people think of Halloween, it's a good excuse to watch horror movies. But for me, it's like I think of more kooky, PG friendly kind of movies when I think of Halloween.
Yeah,
like it's more of a festive kind of occasion as opposed to just horror.
Yeah,
that's what we've got Friday the 13th for, which quite often is multiple times a year.
Yeah,
but So I went with one today that sort of balances that hokey with some genuine horror. It's from 1988, and it is Slaughterhouse Rock. Do you guys remember this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm looking at.
I mean, this is I love this film, and I watched it again, a few nights ago, and it reaffirmed how good it was. I love it. Tony Basil is in this film,
course,
like
Mickey.
Mickey.
Yeah, right.
Oh, Mickey, you're so fine. Well, the story
more
is
importantly, I
batshit
believe
crazy.
she choreographed some of the cheers in Bring It On.
That's true.
I think.
But this one tells the story of a guy who has all these night visions and night terrors, and then some psychic mystic woman, who is Tony Basil, concludes that the visions are beckoning him back to Alcatraz Island for some weird-ass reason. And then he and a group of friends sneak onto the island in the middle of the night. Then all these nightmarish things start to happen, including like demonic possession and shit like that. And it's just one of those standalone horror movies from the 80s that never got a sequel. It's immediately striking. The visuals are just delicious. And the poster design is fucking amazing too.
Great poster.
And there's a smorgasbord of cool horror in it. Like, I particularly like the scene where a guy gets sort of strung up over a fire and his back gets flayed of its flesh. Like, it's really gross and gory, but at the same time, it's really frivolous and fun.
Yeah, it's one I'm going to have to revisit. I picked up the Blu-ray a couple of years ago, and I just haven't got to it. I think I might have tried to put it on one night when I was too tired, and probably didn't make it past the menu. But I've been dying to check it out. Because, the artwork, I remember seeing the video as a kid at the video store and going, what is this? Is it a vampire flick? What is he? Is a monster of some sort? But yeah, I've been dying to revisit it, and the fact that Tony Basil is in it, what a sell.
Oh, and it has some really cool M. Night Shyamalan type of, twists in there as well. So that took me by surprise. I never remembered that from when I used to watch it.
They were dead before they went to the island?
Spoiler alert. The guy who directed this one, though, recently made the Kickboxer Rebellion movie, the
wow.
sequel one. And he's directing the upcoming Jiu-Jitsu with Nicolas Cage and Tony Jaa.
Oh, that trailer just landed the other day. I haven't checked it out yet. Right. Wow, that's incredible. He's still, working and doing good work, too.
Yeah, and I think in between that, he must have been doing television or something. I don't care enough to actually know.
Yeah, fair enough.
Awesome. Well, consider that the first round of recommendations. But for now, this week, the guys on Bonehead Weekly are discussing fantasy movie mashups. Then in a few moments, we'll do some newer Halloween recommendations.
Welcome to Bonehead Weekly Fun Size, where Chad's going to give the description of what we're going to talk about today. Chad?
That is a long title to put in front of after Bonehead Weekly.
Chad edition?
Yeah, sure. Even though, no, this is my least favorite one, so this is not mine. But what we're doing
I just
is,
like saying addition.
there was a huge success with when Freddy met Jason, and then there was talks of a sequel, Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. That never happened, but you can get the comic book of the original script, and highly recommend you check that out. I own it. So we wanted to do one of two
Thank
movies
you for
that we.
taking mine. That's what I was going to talk about.
We'll go ahead and talk about it. We'll lead up to that. But no, we were talking about our favorite, two movies that we would like to see meshed together into a great story. And Joe, go ahead.
Well, that almost happened. It was in the days of New Line, and literally, Freddy versus Jason was a huge hit. They had a huge hit on their hand, and Robert Englund has said it to me before. They left a lot of money on the table when they didn't do a sequel to that movie. It was a huge hit, bigger than either one of those franchises could have imagined. The problem is they did not rush a sequel out, and I wanted to do Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. Now, why they didn't just do another Freddy versus Jason, just for the pure numbers, I don't know. I don't completely understand that of the studio politics. I know they're about to make Lord of the Rings and get a lot of Oscars, and maybe wanted to get away from that. But people should want to make money. Corporations should want to make money. I understand that. Freddy versus Jason versus Ash is where they wanted to go. They could never get it quite worked out. Sam Raimi was on board. New Line was on board. I still don't understand what fell apart.
And seriously, check out the comic book if you haven't, because some of the kills in there are way more graphic and cooler than anything that could be put on film.
And Hellraiser, just because Chad mentioned it, kind of a 2 for 2. Hellraiser has also been mentioned in several of these before. And if you think there hasn't been talks about teaming up Michael Myers and Pinhead, you are ghastly wrong.
All right, I've got two I want to do. I'm going to pull Chad and do a twofer. Okay, picture this. Now, you're sitting there and you're in space, and there's this thing that keeps happening.
It's a leprechaun?
No. Leprechaun is nothing compared to this. You've got to figure out something you can send into this spaceship that literally is taking people to hell. That's right. You're going to send Jason X to the event horizon.
I love that one. That one's good.
Oh my God! Can you just picture it?
When we get Todd Farmer's going to do the show again. When we get Todd Farmer back, will you pitch that to him?
I would love to see it. And like I said, I don't care if you have to break the reality of both of those films, but the kill scenes
they've already done that with Jason.
In both of the films are too much fun not to do it. I mean, there's the cut scenes of all the horror that they get in the video of Event Horizon, and there's expanded ones that you can watch online that were never finished. That being said, my second 2-4, I was thinking about this. What happens when two immortals meet and both of them are very hard to kill? That's right. I want Connor McLeod of the Clan McLeod to have to fight Dracula.
I wanted to fight
Highlander
Steven
meets
Seagal. Now that's
Dracula.
been hard to kill.
Highlander meets Dracula. Make it happen, Hollywood. You can do it. I have faith in you. Those are the two that I came up with. I'd pay to see either of them. As a matter of fact, I'd make Joe pay to see either of them.
That's not really saying much, but yeah. I kind of like your first one, though.
Okay, so a little background. I thought about this one, and I thought about a movie that was actually turned into this movie because it was a failed script for a certain franchise. So I would like to see Aliens meets Pitch Black.
Is Pitch Black a failed script from another franchise?
I read a story that yes, it was originally going to be an Alien sequel, and then they rejected it, and then it got turned into what is Pitch Black. So yeah, I would like to see Riddick fight some xenomorphs.
I would love to see that one too. Actually, and by the way, Riddick is not a bad movie.
Riddick is not a bad movie. Chronicles of Riddick is a piece of shit.
Is a bad movie.
Now Riddick is just a revised version of Pitch Black, but it's still entertaining.
It's still
wait, I got a flip side for this. Let me take your idea, Chad, and turn it on its ear. Now imagine this: Riddick escapes from somewhere,
New York,
but he's gotta go somewhere really fast. So he teams up with Dom from the Fast and the Furious. We do it Parent Trap style. Every role in the film played by
Vin Diesel. All right, this has been Bonehead Weekly Fun Size Edition. Next week, meh.
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 Hey. Now who goes there? Busta Rhymes and Uncle Cracker, y'all. Check it. Yeah. That bone,
broken glass everywhere. People freak the hallways and freak the stairs. Ain't a care in the face, no style or grace. waste your mind. If you came to freak, then I got some time. Fall behind and I'll do the same. And get it on, baby, like my man Mills Lane. No shame, feel no pain. The night might fall, but we're in the same lane. Rain or shine, we could all be free. And you can rock this till you can't see. So watch me and I watch you. You know the party don't stop till I say it's through. Check two, any time or town. And you can find your uncle when the sun goes down. Freaks come out at night. Everybody. Freaks come out at night. Come on now. Freaks come out at night. Freaks come out. Freaks come out at night. Come on now. Freaks come out at night. Come on now. Freaks come out at night. Everybody. Freaks come out at night. Come on now. Freaks come out at night.
Hey yo, if you're hanging out late, I hope you got it hard, cause it ain't till 12 when the party really start. Boom, it's frightening the way we climbing up the charts. So make way, cause you know we coming to tear the place apart. Come on, whining and dining all over Spooky Island Cracker. Let's get this thing cracking and keep the people wildin'. I'm saying, the door about to shut, you better start running in before they close the spot and all the freaks start coming in. Everybody up in the street start to funnel in and let all my people that used to go down to the tunnel in. See when we come through and step on the scene, I razzle and dazzle the people with my mystery machine. Freaks come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. They can come from any direction, even come straight out the gutter. I'm saying, if you wanna live a quiet life, you need to stay up in your house and don't come out at night, cause freaks come out at night. Come on now. Freaks come out at night. Come on. Freaks come out at night. Freaks come out at night. Come on now. Freaks come out at night. Freaks come out at night. Come on now. Freaks come out at night. Freaks come out. 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 Freak it to the left and freak to the right. In the middle, just a little if it feels alright. All night till the break of day. You can come for a while, but you can't stay. It's no place for the weak at heart. What's best to say? It don't start till dark. Up in the parks, the clubs, the halls. Turn the cell phones off. We ain't taking no calls. And don't fall, cause the nights are young. Ain't nobody gonna stop till we see some sun. Hit me one, hit me two, three times. It's your Uncle Cracker and bust the rhymes. Freaks come out at night. Everybody. Freaks come out at night. Come on now. Freaks come out at night. Everybody. Freaks come out at night. Come on now. Freaks come out at night. Come on now. Freaks come out at night. Everybody. Freaks come out at night. Come on now. Freaks come out at night. Come on. Freaks come out. Freaks come out at night. Come on now. Freaks come out at night. Everybody. Freaks come out at night.
Fun times, how about that? Busta Rhymes with a track called Freaks Come Out at Night from the Scooby-Doo soundtrack, a kooky little family-friendly Halloween movie with a sequel that's arguably much better. That leads us into more Halloween recommendations, and this time we're going to talk about a few newer ones, and there's been some really cool Halloweenish kind of movies over the past couple of years, stuff like Ready or Not, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and Hellfest. But I'm going to go first with this one, guys. I struggled with this one because I think there's just so many to pick and choose from. Stuff like Invisible Man and Underwater and Crawl, they were contenders. But I went with one from 2019. It's one of the more bizarre horror movies of the year. One that has a massive Halloween flavour to it. It's the Banana Splits movie. Did you guys catch this?
No, I wanted to. I really wanted to see it, but I remember when I saw the trailer, and I remember thinking, like, someone has pulled one out, like, for this, because this is everything that I want to see in a horror film.
This movie caught everybody off guard when it dropped. Like, they took a popular Hanna-Barbera children's show from the 60s and turned it into a fucking slasher film that's as gory as all heck. And it tapped in, I think why it worked, it tapped into that creepy thing that so many kids shows, particularly of that era, had. Like, you know, Puff and Stuff and Wazzle Gummidge and Teletubbies, they all have this sort of weird creepiness to them. But especially the Banana Splits, these characters in the movie turn out to actually be robots, and they've been robots all along. even though you can kind of see the humans inside the suits and shit like that. But that's kind of what makes it appealing. And these robots malfunction when it's announced that the Banana Split show has been cancelled. So the audience that's in attendance for the final taping essentially fall victim to a massacre. It's so much fun. It's kind of like, I think it's been described as Chopping Mall meets Child's Play, which is probably a pretty good way to describe it. So much fun. And what caught me off guard the most, I think, is the fact that I actually really cared about the kids in this one. Like, the lead kid, I cared about this kid all the way through. I felt sorry for him. I felt really like perverted for actually enjoying this film where this kid is really emotionally scarred and suffering. And then I had to remind myself what awesome filmmaking this is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you dig it?
Yeah, I did. I thought, like you said, it came left of field, did not expect it. I wasn't actually even familiar with the Banana Splits series, so it was something when it first came across my radar when the trailer dropped. I was like, what is this? I remember speaking to like Grant at Monster Fest, and he was like, yeah, I grew up with the show. And I'm like, jumped on YouTube, and I'm like, I was like, how have they got this IP and they're doing this? This is insane. I dug it. I thought it was really good. And like you said, that era of children's broadcasting did carry sort of a creepy value. When you look back at it now, you're like, oh, it's all kind of creepy and so
Yep.
taking that and making it a horror film makes perfect sense. And now look, it's obviously opened the floodgate for bigger studios to do stuff like, the Fantasy Island movie. It's sort of, taking popular IPs and then transforming them into something else, which is pretty interesting. I like that. If you're going to do a remake, do it and make it fucking weird. I'm
And there's no argument that this one's weird, and the production value is quite good as well. It looks like I was worried it was going to look like a really cheap kind of indie film that they're trying to go for a big concept but haven't got the smarts to pull it off. But they did. This feels like an edgy studio film. It's very, very surprising.
It was such a surprise because it just kind of came out of nowhere. Went straight to home end, pretty much globally. Like, we got it in Australia the same time as the States. And it was not that far apart from that last Critters film that came out, Critters Attack. And this was so much better. Like, this was
infinitely
the kind of the film you would see at a horror film festival, like a Monster Fest or something, as opposed to Critters Attack that, you will be lucky to watch as a free webisode series on the internet. But yeah.
I did not make it to the end of Critters Attack, but I felt the Banana Splits was actually a really fitting Halloween film. It felt very much like a festive kind of thing. But Ben, what have you got for us next?
Well, look, you've actually just, listening to you talk about that has actually made me switch my pick.
Ooh.
I was originally, I think I was going to talk about Overlord or some shit like that,
he was going to recommend some shit.
Overlord. I mean, I really like Overlord. I love. There's a certain kind of World War II movie that I really love, and I thought Overlord turned that genre into put horror into that world really effectively. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but this movie has not come out in Australia. I actually saw it and tried to program it for Monster Fest, but I was shot down by the other programmers. I think in 2015. It is a film called Love in the Time of Monsters. And it is this great. The idea was just so awesome, and I thought it's a very kind of Zombievers-ish kind of gross out kind of horror film, but it's basically set in this kind of Paul Bunyan type theme, kind of weekend getaway kind of family park type thing in rural, I think California somewhere, and this woman goes I think she goes to work there. She's going to get a job at this theme park, and there's all these guys who dress up as Bigfoot and wander around the park in their costumes, like scaring the kids and all this kind of stuff. But simultaneously to this, there's the owner of the resort has decided to make extra money by allowing and that may have been a twist in the film that I've just given away, but is allowing the dumping of toxic waste in the lake of the park. And all 4 or 5 of the guys who are dressed up as Bigfoots get into this kind of, during a break, they get into a kind of a like a faux brawl kind of thing. They're just slapping each other around and stuff, and they fall into this toxic waste water, and it makes them go insane. But also the costumes kind of fuse to them, so they essentially become these kind of Bigfoot psychotic killers who start massacring all of the guests at this park. But then also the animals who drink the toxic waste water, they also become homicidal, and there is a absolutely phenomenal scene of a psychotic beaver that chews its way out of a massive pair of boobs. It's a really good film. Kane Hodder is in it, if that means anything to anyone.
He's in everything.
He lends his name to just about anything. And I went to in 2015 or 2016, I guess it was technically. I went to the US and I met the producer. And we went out and had dinner, and he is a great guy. And he was telling me all about the making of this film, and it made me love it even more. I don't know. I think you could probably see it. It's probably on Amazon Prime and stuff like that. You can probably track it down. It definitely got a DVD release in the US, but I would highly recommend it as a good Halloween.
Love
film.
in the Time of Monster, was it called?
Love in the Time of Monsters. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm sold. I want to see it.
Jarret, bring us home. Bring us home, mate.
Hang on. The tagline I just see in this is Love in the Time of Monsters, a Bigfoot, a mutant killer moose, and a bitch in charge. There you go.
Oh, that's a great tagline. I like it. All right, so the one I've got is actually a brand new film. It came out last year. Well, came out 2019 and did the festival round. So I think played like Fantastic Fest, but it has literally just come out this month on Shudder, and it's called The Mortuary Academy. Now, this is another anthology horror, which I adore anthology horrors. Now, this one's probably hands down the best one I've seen. Did I say Mortuary Collection or Mortuary Academy?
You said Mortuary Academy. Which I like.
No, I know. I saw Ben's face, and then I'm like, it's that bloody coffin case VHS of Ben's that got me confused. So the film's actually the Mortuary Collection. I was looking at Ben, I'm like, oh, he's heard of this one. And then I'm like, oh no, I literally have said Academy. But anyway, so the Mortuary Collection. It's an anthology horror, best one I've seen since Nightmare Cinema, and I actually think this one's even better than Nightmare Cinema because every story is super strong. Like, everyone's a winner. And the stories range from, short and contained to slightly lengthier but high concept. And they've all got a sense of humor about them, whether it's kind of overt or a little bit more subtle. And every single story is a banger, and the wraparound itself is terrific as well. The wraparound has Clancy Brown as this hideous sort of
I love Clancy,
and he's so good. Yeah, he's absolutely in fact, his performance reminds me probably a little bit more of a charming version of the character he played in Pet Sematary 2 after he was brought back from the dead. But he's swapping stories with a young girl, and this young girl's there under the pretense of applying for a job. And so they sort of swap stories amongst one another. And I think it's like 4 tales all up, but everyone is bang for your buck. There's a mix of practical effects and CGI, but the emphasis is more on the practical effects, and the practical effects are fantastic. In fact, the whole entire film looks so good that it's hard to believe that prior to it arriving on Shudder that it didn't really get a bigger sort of festival run, or they didn't try and push it out, in different avenues. So it's like that. In my mind, it's the best kept secret on Shudder at the moment, because I don't know anyone that's really watched it yet. But I thoroughly recommend it, the Mortuary Collection. If you've got Shudder, watch it. If you haven't got Shudder, do the 7-day trial and watch it, because it is absolute perfect viewing for this Halloween festive season.
Wow, awesome. Well, overall, that's 6 Halloween recommendations for everybody listening to dive into. And I know that there are a few people who will definitely take us on board for some of those. So happy viewing to the lot of you. And how about a 7th one for good measure? We've got one from Adam coming right up.
Hey guys, it's Adam here from Adam's Just Seen with another Good Movie Monday recommendation. Now this week we are doing Halloween films, and so I'm going to pick what I think is the best scary movie that you can check out. Now this film is relatively recent compared to the other films that will be talked about this week. This one came out in 2005, and this is The Descent by Neil Marshall. Now Neil Marshall made a huge splash on the scene when he released Dog Soldiers, a movie that showed an enormous amount of promise. But I don't think any of us realised how good a filmmaker Neil was going to be with his next movie, The Descent. Now, The Descent is ostensibly a survival tale about 6 women that go into a cave, and surprise, surprise, they're not alone when they get down there. But what Marshall does, and what makes this movie so inventive and makes it such a classic, is that he puts two things together. He puts the creature feature together with a claustrophobic survival thriller. So you're basically getting like Alien meets 127 Hours, and all of it is pretty gross. This movie is really kind of like a test for people. Every time I show this to someone, I just watch them, and they're like, yeah, okay, I get it, you know, like it's humming along, and then they start to squirm, and then they really start to squirm, and then by the time there's the introduction of what are, you know, the antagonists in this film, people are shrieking. All the girls are really, really strong here, and Neil Marshall is an excellent technical filmmaker and knows how to ratchet up the tension, and his work here managed to get him some plum gigs on things like Game of Thrones. So some of those massive battle scenes that you remember, that is the work of Neil. So Neil has definitely got the sensibility of a genre filmmaker, and he likes to bust heads open, and this is a very, very gory movie. So if you haven't seen this, check out The Descent. Absolute 5-star pressure cooker claustrophobic film. Definitely worth your time.
Oh, there you go. The Descent. I don't know why, but that just feels like an Adam type of movie to me. It's weird how we have types of movies, like horror movies in particular. Obviously, I'm partial to those PG-13 brands of horror. What do you guys consider to be your type of horror?
It's a very good question, Glenn. For real, genuine horror, I like real scenarios, things like Eden Lake, or, you know, Funny Games, not necessarily horror, but The Strangers maybe, except not The Strangers, Il's the French version, infinitely better. Those kind of things really scare me because they could happen, and
relatable horror.
Yeah, absolutely. When you can identify with the characters and relate to them, that is the kind of horror that really scares me, and that's the horror I'm drawn back to watch if I'm looking to be, you know, upset. But I generally have a massive soft spot for slashers, you know, whether they're the iconic slashers like your Freddy or your Jason or whomever, or the more obscure ones, like I watched one the other week, Deadly Manor, and that was a lot of fun. I don't know. I love all shades of horror, but I guess it depends on what kind of mood of horror I'm in for. Yeah. So.
And that would be the shortest answer you've ever given. And we all know that Ben is a Wynorski kind of horror guy.
Yeah, like I require gags, and I require nudity in my horror to really seal the deal. Like things like I know we had this discussion. I was thinking about talking about it, and I couldn't remember. When we had discussed it when we first got the Arrow Blu-rays, whether I liked it or didn't, I was going to talk about Doom Asylum, which is which I think I quite enjoyed it, and you hated it.
You did, I couldn't sell that Blu-ray fast enough. I got it, and I had to. It was one of the few films that I did actually want to see people getting killed in it because I hated all the characters. So I had to start fast forwarding through to the death scenes just because I wanted to see the people die. And I think it had the bird from Melrose Place in it that ended up in Sex and the City, didn't it? I can't remember her name.
Yeah, it was her first film, Kristen Davis. Kristen Davis?
That's it.
But it also has Paddy Mullen, aka Frankenhooker.
That's right. I forgot about that. But I remember telling you, God, I watched this movie. It was horrible. And I think even Danny chimed in and goes, Ben, it's the worst. And then he made us watch all the death scenes. It just never ended. And then Ben watched it, and Ben goes, that Doom Asylum, I kind of liked it. I think it was enough that you bought it on Blu-ray.
I bought it on Blu-ray. I kept it. I can completely understand where you're coming from. The acting is possibly the worst acting in a horror film ever. It is ridiculous. Like the gore effects are pretty kind of cheap. Like they're fun, but they're cheap. The plot is flimsy as, but I still found it endearing despite all of that, or maybe because of all of that.
Yeah, I know, and it's weird too because that is pretty much I love those type of films, but they are hit and miss with me. Like some I see and I will just adore, and people will question. I can't understand why you like it. But yeah, I can see all those aspects of Doom Asylum, and that's probably why I was reluctant to sell
guys,
it, you know?
I hate to interrupt this little thing going on here, but, you know...
Have you seen Doom Asylum?
I got some. No, I haven't. I've got some stuff to give away. So for the people
Nice.
listening at home, if you remember that TV spot that we played at the start of the show, if you know what movie that was promoting, then get in touch with us. It's glenn@fakeshep.net. That's the email address. Be the first person to identify it correctly, and you'll win a special Halloween pack. And how about this? Maybe if you win a prize, give us some shout out on your timeline on Facebook, whatever. Take a photo with the prize and hashtag Good Movie Monday. Let's get that online engagement thing happening. That would be fun. And that is pretty much it for another episode. Is there anything else you want to riff before we do go? Maybe they're like Monster Fest t-shirts up for grabs or anything like that?
Yes, Monster Fest t-shirts are on sale now on the website, and you got to get in early to guarantee your sizing. That's one thing with the festival. If you're not buying them the first night they're on the merch table, you're not going to get your preferred sizing, which is generally men's large and men's medium, are generally the ladies' sizes.
Men's XL.
Don't
those
worry.
Are the
And yeah,
and XL.
yeah.
Those
The
three.
ladies' sizes, we've got them. We've got plenty of them. We'll do multi-buy deals on them. But yeah, if you want a t-shirt, jump on the website, monsterfest.com.au, grab it. We've got the sizes, and we're hopefully going to be doing the festival in Melbourne. So support us with buying a shirt if you obviously no guarantee if Melbourne's going ahead or not. But if you buy a t-shirt, it really does help the festival itself.
Awesome. Well, here's something. Next week on our show, our special guest is going to be David Mama, who is the director of Apartment 1BR, which is a really cool little thriller. And I believe, Jarret, you spent some time at Sundance with those folks, yeah?
I did, yeah. I did with Alok Mishra, who's the producer of the movie, and Shane, I can't remember Shane's surname, who's a producer on it, and Naomi Grossman as well, who's in the movie. Yeah, we stayed in one of the cabins there together during Sundance. But we programmed 1BR last year at the festival when it was just called 1BR. Now, obviously, it's retitled locally to Apartment 1BR, and it was by far, that and Harpoon were like my favourite films of the festival last year. So it's great that it's actually getting a physical release here in Australia. So really exciting. I can't wait to hear this interview.
Yeah, he'll be on the show next week, dropping in for a chat, so I am super excited about that. And next week we'll be giving away the film as well as a prize. But unless you guys have anything else to add...
I do. I just want to say quickly, I just received this in an email, and I had to watch it straight away. I watched it just before we came on the air. There's a trailer for a new film.
Is it about Bitcoin?
Sorry?
Is it about Bitcoin?
It is about Bitcoin, funnily enough. David Andrews has... has a great new money secret that he's not telling anyone about. It's going to destroy the banks, and the banks don't want you to hear it. No, no, this is a trailer for a new film that looks like it's a Russian. It's like a Russian version of Duke Nukem called Bullets of Justice. It does have
Danny
Trejo in it. The poster looks amazing. The trailer looks phenomenal. It is a post-apocalyptic world, but it's like hell comes to Frogtown, but instead of frogs, they're pig men. With and they eat people and they treat them like pigs. And it's got the trailer just looked absolutely amazing. If you got a spare 2 minutes or 1 minute 25 to be precise, jump on YouTube and look at the Bullets of Justice trailer. I wish we could program this for Monster Fest because it looks amazing.
Maybe we can for Melbourne.
Well, it's got, for some reason, the trailer has an October 15th release date on it. So I'm guessing that means it's coming out in maybe that's the Russian release date, and it won't matter. But yeah.
Well, everybody has been informed. Jarret, thanks, mate, thanks for hanging out with us again. Hopefully, we can be enjoying your company a little more often. It's always fun.
I'd love to drop in whenever you guys will have me.
And Ben, it's great stuff, mate. Always fun with you. Never dull.
I try my best. I turn the dull dial down as far as it will go. It doesn't go as far down as I would like, but I give it my all.
And of course, a massive thanks to Guillermo and ScreenRealm.com, Adam Ross from the Australian Film Critics Association, and of course, Joe, Chad, and James from Bonehead Weekly. Always nice to have their otherworldly perspective on things, whatever that means. I just tongue-tied myself, but I'll forge on regardless. Most importantly, thanks to all of you loyal listeners. And that means without you, your support and all that stuff, there's no point doing what we do. So be sure to keep listening, keep sharing, help spread the word. And I'm just tripping all over my words here. So let's just leave it at that. So
though it is important for all listeners to remember that anything post Sean Connery, James Bond sucks. I'm just putting that out there. I'm putting that out there for a special couple of listeners. You know who you are.
We're gonna leave you with that, and we're also gonna leave you with a cool track from the 2018 soundtrack to another Monsterfest alumni, Hellfest. This one's called "Dead Alive" by Crisis Culture. And have a grouse Halloween, everyone. We'll see you next week.
In the flash, right in front of me. Is it live? Is it dead? With no eyes to see. Something's wrong, what's come over me? It feels so right, but it's costing me. No one's ever gonna save you in time. Come meet Jamaica, get a taste of the crime. I know you want it just to come on inside. It doesn't matter if you're dead alive.
Wow.